How you doing, YouTube? Matt Massive Beer Reviews. A little bit of aged beer, courtesy of my boy Dan from Pittsburgh. This be the Atomic Pomme Ale Brewed with Apples from Draai Laag Brewing, 2017 edition. As you can see right there. Dan reached out, said, hey man, love to send some Pittsburgh beers. Not just Pittsburgh beers, but a bit of cellared beers. And he sent off some Draai Laag. Now they are actually called Strange Roots. But I am a big fan of this brewery. And he sent me off 2 beers. Both of those, well, 2 Draai Laag ones. More beers than just those. But he sent me off 2 Draai Laag aged beers. And I'll probably put these up at the same time. So the other one was their Port Sour. Port of Sour, I believe is what it's called. That kind of missed a mark for me. It was a little bit past its prime as far as vibrancy. This one's about the same age, 2017. So you're talking about, 4 years in this sucker. So we'll see how this one lands. I've never had this beer. I've seen this beer before, but I never purchased it. It's 9.1%. It's an apple-based sour. Brushing with tart apple flavor, that's funky aromas and fresh cut hay. This 70-30 blend of fresh and 12-month racked aged wild ales undergoes a final maturation in a second-use bourbon cask to create light caramel tones and complementary notes of brown sugar and soft oak. Yeah. So, apparent degree of attenuation. You rarely see that on the beer, so 92%. So it shouldn't be overly sweet. Wild yeast. There you go. So, Shelton Brothers distro. That's kind of, sad to see. You don't see that really anymore because Shelton Brothers is no more at the time of this filming. So, anyway. Looks like a sour. I mean, there's a little bit of a head on there, but it dissipated relatively quickly. Kind of has an apple cider kind of vibe to it, so it's kind of apropos in that sense. And there definitely is a thick kind of milky yeastiness kind of floating around our funkiness. I don't know if you can see that swirling around in there, but it definitely has a little bit of murkiness going on. Let's get a nose. I mean, the apples are omnipresent in here, but in a kind of almost like semi-baked apple kind of thing going on. It's not like a rich organic apple. There's a little bit of a sulfury funk in here. There's definitely a soft kind of subtle little caramel bourbon thing they're talking about in there with a little bit of oak tannins, maybe getting a little bit of vanilla from that, but it really is the apples start to show. But the apples, like I said, it's like a semi-cooked kind of baked apple kind of thing. And then this, like, there's an oxidative point that almost comes off as like a smoky component. Oddly enough, so it's like oxidation, but it's like a smoked cardboardy paper thing going on, which I'm not sure if it's gonna be a negative or positive in the beer. It smells fun and interesting. Let's put it that way. Let's dive in. Cheers. That is pretty fucking delicious, actually. That is really nice. Doesn't drink anything like I thought it was going to be. It's a lot sweeter than I thought it was going to be, but not overly sweet. It tastes like something that, I mean, obviously, they didn't do full attenuation on this, but it tastes a little bit bigger than that kind of 8% leftover residual sugar. There is a nice kind of, like, I think it's a marriage of both oxidation and oak tannins that dry this beer out towards the end. So you get that big pop of sweetness up front. You get that dryness on the other end of things. And you have that apple merged with those little bit of kind of bourbon and caramel tones. So it's really very much like an apple Jolly Rancher, but in a better way, if that makes any sense. There's a decent, I don't want to say decent acidity, because that's, or decent acidity. It's better if I actually pronounce the word completely. For me, there is. I don't think people who are big into sours will think this is overly acidic. And not that it's like overly acidic on the palate, but it is giving me kind of tinges of my body wanting to produce some heartburn. So I know there's a definite acidity to the beer, but it's more tart, funky, with that little bit of sour kind of coming up on the rear end of things. This is really tasty. This is actually aged quite nice. It really does remind me of an apple Jolly Rancher, but in a more kind of like, in a beer form, in a funky sour beer form, but very kind of like a lateral shift from that Jolly Rancher. It's not like I'm getting the taste and flavors apple Jolly Rancher. It's a sour apple Jolly Rancher, but in beer form, without that overly cloying sweetness. So you might be bring that sweetness down equally with the tartness and the Jolly Rancher, and that's kind of where this one lies. The biggest difference here lying is the dryness, obviously, the fact that it's a beer, obviously, and then I think the other thing is that soft little caramel wash that you have going on throughout the beer. I think that actually adds a cool dimension to it and makes it something not a Jolly Rancher, but in a very fun way. I like this beer quite a bit, actually. Based off of the nose, I wasn't too excited. That's pretty good stuff. Yeah, I'm a fan. What can I say? Thank you very much, Dan, for sending this off. Very cool beer. Aged much, much better than the other beer that I had. That one kind of lost a little bit of luster over time. I don't know what this beer was like new, but I doubt it tasted like this, and it might not have tasted this cohesive. That's the one thing that probably is the biggest takeaway from this beer, is the fact that it's so kind of one flavor. It's not like a little bit of this here, a little bit of that there. Even though I'm picking apart the beer and calling out specific flavors, it's very cohesive, very one note. That's a bad way of phrasing it, because it's multiple levels of the beer, but it tastes like it's, coalesced together and became one, as opposed to being strikingly singular notes that compose up a beer. And I think that you only get that with time half the time. Yeah, keep the words coming, and I dig it. So there you go. Let's talk about this beer. Is this one of the better sour beers that I've had as of late? Yes. Is it Mount Rushmore status? Probably not. Outside of that, but in the grand scheme of things, as far as an aged sour beer goes, it definitely ekes up the ladder and gets very close to that. It's a tasty beer nonetheless. Let's put it that way. Value and availability. I was going to say, like I said in the other one, it's age. What are you going to do? But you can find these beers. I pretty much know exactly where to find this beer. So if I wanted to go pick this beer up, I'm pretty sure it's a 2017. I believe in 2018 is when Draai Laag converted to Strange Roots. So if you see this, not Strange Roots version, you see the Draai Laag version, it's at least 2017. And they might have just made this the one time under Draai Laag's name before they made this Strange Roots. And I don't even know if they make it nowadays. So if you can find these. They can be found in and around Pennsylvania at least, and leave you with, if you like what we like this beer. If you like your funky, tart, sour, apple kind of Jolly Rancher things, let's put it this way. If you like your Wisconsin Belgian red from why am I spacing right now? You know what I'm talking about. God damn it. New Glarus? God, why couldn't I think of that brewery? And that makes you kind of think of the Jolly Rancher I'm talking about. You'll like this. It's not as sweet as that beer, but the balance between the sweetness and that tartness is the same level. So if you like that, you're almost a shoo-in to like this. So there you go. Review in the books. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Down there if you want to talk about it. Massive Beers if you want to check me out doing the social media stuff. Beer Massive. If you want to check me out doing the whole podcasting thing, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. Hopefully enjoying a little bit of aged beer right now. Hope to see you next time. Cheers.